Okay, this is for the return of Exploratory Minds. Exploratory Minds was a project that was run during the most of the nasty side of COVID, during lockdowns and so on. I had to do something to occupy my mind. And so when things got back to normal, I ended up with a bit of an identity crisis and then doing this health thing, which then my health went out the window as well, ironically. Um, so here I am back, and it feels like really I should be doing this anyway. I moan about having the time and energy for it. There's no need to push it. There's just I'll do what I can when I can. Certainly, on the return of Exploratory Minds, you're going to see some of the older stuff that some of the stuff that I did first time around. Like I'll be looking into 3D printing technology, BMI, that's brain mind interfaces, or like brain chip, brain machine interfaces. It's sure Elon Musk did this Neuralink thing, but who trusts Elon Musk, right? Um, Elon is always been a bit disjointed, and certainly got worse and worse. But they are all about human behavior and why people just lose it as well. I'll be doing videos on that. So I had been reading, this is well thumbed and a bit decrepit. I might get a new copy on body language. This one is called What Every Body Is Saying, in terms of play on words, everyone's body is saying. Joe Navarro wrote this, and Joe Navarro was trained by the FBI in America back when establishments and authorities had some degree of maintenance of standards. But yeah, when things like Trump administrations and that lead, or things that lead to a Trump administration, poison a lot of things, you wonder who to trust and what to read and so on. Cues, also, I've been reading. Cues is by Vanessa Van Edwards, who, by her own admission, started off as very socially awkward. I have some reservations, some things probably get me into trouble if I talked about them, about Vanessa Van Edwards. I do think her work is great, but as to her behavior, as to why she was socially awkward, and what was going on with her, because I could be wrong on it as well, and it's something I don't know how to word, because it could sound not like a smear campaign necessarily, but it could sound a bit near the mark. I need to learn more to crystallize my suspicions there. I'm not saying don't buy a book, because her work is very good and it's proven and there's a whole science to it. So, yeah, and very mind blowing was this. When I bought this, I was like reading up on also a much older book, but outdated on some of its take on things now. I was reading that as well, which sort of revisiting. It's called The Definitive Guide on Body Language by Dr. Alan and Barbara Pease. They went all over the world seeing different cultures, and some body language traits are many body language traits actually are universal. Some are cultural, but they're part of the universal trait, but they're more exaggerated within that culture, or vice versa. You know, there's different nuances to look for. What is highly crucial, right at the top of the list, to read in body language is context. You could describe somebody who did something when they were saying something in terms of conversation, That mean they could describe what their body language was like, but it's still not enough. You need all the context, the situation. Was their body language nervous? Well, what environment are they in that's inducing the nervousness? Are they being questioned by authorities like police? Are they in a court of law? That's a nervous inducing environment. Chase Hughes wrote this, the 6-minute X-ray. So when I bought this, it was on my shelf for a while, and I thought, yeah, I'll read it. I just put it on Amazon at the time, thinking, okay, the reviews look really good. I didn't know Chase Hughes was part of the behavioral panel on YouTube. Go and look at those individuals. But this was I have some wooden shelves above me here. Just it was sat on there, and I was thinking 6-minute X-ray, and maybe it's a bit overly boasting. But actually, for some things that he's talking about, it take you 6 minutes to discern, oh, this or that about a person, as long as you got a number of the variables, context, and so on. And that can take a few minutes sometimes to discern the context if you're looking over media rather than being somewhere in person with a person, right? Chase Hughes' work is phenomenal. And he was trained, I got some information in front of me now. He spent 20 years in the United States military as an interrogation. Because of that, his behavioral analysis. The initial training, though, wasn't really that good. He wasn't that impressed. They were told just to get to know them, look them in the eye, shake their hand. This is a very bog standard stuff. But I don't know. I mean, they need to look at other avenues of where he resources information and what he had, how he added to it as well. In his own right, I would say he's a genius, and it's really makes you think. There's neural connections click away when you start reading this. So one day I picked it up, thought, it's by Chase Hughes. Does sound familiar. I've been watching behavioral panel videos and didn't twig. Because I was just tertiary watching them here and there. Now I'm much more interested. And I thought, and I watched, reading, I thought, this is cool. And watch some behavioral panel videos at Chase Hughes. Oh, that's him, and it just all started clicking in a bit. But I want to talk about psychological operations. But where to start? Chase Hughes talks about a fate model. And that makes a lot of sense. When you have, let's say, and it kind of is, whether it's intended or not, partially intended, yes, but what does the Trump administration know about psychology, really? They know about manipulation, lying, and just being flat out disgusting individuals, liars. So corruption infesting the administration, infesting your government, and has infested the government for much longer than people think. What is the fate model? It's an acronym, FATE, F-A-T-E, and it's focus, authority, tribalism, and emotion. Notice all those words. You get you to focus on something, don't matter if it's factual or not. You've got to notice what the authorities are doing. Your tribalistic side is being encouraged, your emotion, but none of that leans towards truth, facts, and reality. Truth is easy. Truth is very simple. Lies are complicated. and cause complications. And just look at America today. It's unraveling at the seams. I don't think the average American, some Americans are going to understand, but majority of Americans do not understand that this unraveling isn't going to be tied back up very easily. It's unraveling, and it's emboldened other corrupt people to jump on those bandwagons. The jump on the train of, they fell for this, they fell for that, I'm gonna have a go. And Canada needs to be watching its media very closely, particularly the media that's owned by American corporative interests, owned by corporations in America. Because, there's this idea of annexing Canada. I don't believe that will ever happen. However, these idiots always play a long game because they're obsessed with being right. Look at Trump, his first term, when he lost his first term, didn't get voted back in. For 4 years, he was claiming that Biden corrupt and the election was stolen. The 48 plus lawsuits, 48, I think it was about 48, trying to find fraudulent votes. This man cannot handle that he is a failure, because this is why he keeps boasting. And during the first term, is always like the focus was on how intelligent he was. His genetics are good. He always wins. Because he's none of those things. That's his fantasy. And fantasies of dictatorship and so on. How is it that a whole country gets dumbed down enough to vote him back in? Psyops are a real thing. So, the first thing you need to notice is the fate model being used against you. And that would be, Chase Hughes talks about this, and this makes a huge amount of sense, getting you to focus on something through the media. And it's only certain, your alarm bells, your ears and eyes would perk up in questioning if there's seems to be an exaggerated focus on something where other media outlets are not really bothering to talk about it at all. Some are really doubling down. So they want you to focus on something. Then you look at the authority figures within that media. They're being interviewed here and there. Maybe like some Trump sycophants are being interviewed who maybe previously weren't pro-Trump. J.D. Vance wasn't pro-Trump once. Was it J.D. Vance, or was it? I don't know. There's so many. It's such a cluster, or it's such a bizarre screw up that it's hard to keep track of. There's no 2 days are the same. Pure chaos, right? But again, with the authority figures, is there a sudden change of heart from these authority figures? Are they suddenly flipped and contradicting what they originally stood for? Or who's bought them? They will get bought. Trump administration and Trump himself buys rich idiots that buy him. And yeah, look at Elon Musk. Then a tribalism. The name calling, the smear campaigning, the emotional string pulling. We've seen all that aimed at Joe Biden's administration. And sure, you could argue whether Joe was good for America or not. One thing that was working under Joe Biden appeared to be the economy. But you can't just equate that just to the president. Because it's easy. It's very easy to help maintain something. It's even mind-blowingly much easier to interfere with something and just break it. Building things requires more work than it does breaking, and the Trump administration, all they've done is broken things, remove things. We don't want to pay for this and all that. You don't want money for that. Cost cutting on this, that, and while they get richer, a rich oligarch, right? So there's a tribalism coming through. As every accusation is an admittance, right? They point the finger and create this separation within the minds of the MAGA followers, or people who weren't MAGA to start with. But this, again, during the whole program of this psychological operation, nobody's talking about actual facts because they can't back up the facts. They just accuse, subvert, use misinformation, misdirection, every time. Propaganda. And a lot of the lies and propaganda are addiction to controlling people. But it's come full circle back around and dumbed down the people who are addicted to control and power to start with. Look at RFJ. Is it RFK? RFK Jr. Yeah. We'll talk about him in a bit, perhaps. But there's tribalism. And the emotion. They double down on driving people's emotional drive to get them to double down, to follow suit, and so on. Drive up the emotions. So that's fate. That's a psychological operation. So things coming home to roost is like, how do you control a whole bunch of individuals to feed your greed and control in the first place? Well, hypothetically, imagine a country that's brand new, it's really young, and things are going well. Productivity is skyrocketing. The housing market is doing well. People, job offers left, right, and center. People are making money. Great. And then people start paying things a lot on loans, credit cards, and greed and corruption sets in with that, and also other things. There's if we could pull them into this, what else can we pull them into? And like loan sharks here and there, dodgy deals, manipulation of financial information on shareholding, companies in a news outlet would say, oh, so-and-so's not doing too well because of this or that. Everyone withdraws their shares out of that particular company. Then you go and find out the rival company is part ownership with the same media outlet that brought out the news anyway, but it's, it's a bit of half-truth misinformation they put out in a particular way, in a framework that would keep a bit more control. And this control train just keeps going. We don't want them to be too smart, though, or cotton on to this corruption infesting places. So, yeah, we don't want to fund the education system too much. Seems like America, doesn't it? What we need is, we've got some great foods in the market. People are enjoying it, but I don't want them just to enjoy it. We want them to be addicted. So the junk food market puts in all these chemicals, and that's not a conspiracy theory. It's like the amount of garbage, flat out garbage, that is no good for you, that is approved by the FDA in America in your foods, is horrendous comparative to the European standards. There's many foods out there will not countries will not accept from America because it doesn't reach a standard or because it's got certain preservatives in that have been shown directly to ruin certain aspects of health. Some are carcinogenic and so on. Aspartame, for instance, they've seen that this could be more addictive than regular sugar, definitely, but it's certainly been linked to cancers. There's some actual science on this aspartame, supposed to be a sugar replacement. However, back in the day, that came from a pharmacist who was trying to get some money for his idea to put aspartame out there because what was it originally? It was a drug for stomach ulcers. I know, the greed and control took over, and he's like, I know, we're putting it in foods because try to tout it as healthier then, but really it's just another level of removal from anything that is more natural in sugars. How many foods out there, sugary foods, do you find that you feel like you might be addicted to, and yet there's natural sugars in fruit, and bananas, pears, apples, oranges, pineapples, they all have sugars, they all have natural sugars. Fructose, cellulose, these are sugars that come from plant matter, and fruit, so don't get addicted to those. Now get it really processed. Comparatively, the same company, it was ketchup, the tomato sauce. The same company that produces it in the UK, they have a tiny paragraph of ingredients. The company in America, they have this huge paragraph of ingredients. And if you break it down, it's basically you got several different forms of sugar as opposed to one or two that is in the one produced in the UK. Corn syrup is shoved in everything, get people addicted, get them entertained, but screw the facts, don't educate them on certain things. Even worse, controlling the information. You control the information and you control what people believe, right? So it's even with the ingredients on what you're eating. It's like when people clue in that, oh, it's got this one word or something, it's got such and such in this. I don't want this one because it's got that. I'll buy the other one. And you find it's actually still in the other one, but they've changed the word. You go and look up this scientific term or whatever, and you find out it means the same thing. It's the same ingredient, but they're doing that to subvert the they'd rather have it in there for the detriment of people's health because it brings in the money, and they rather have people addicted to certain things, energy drinks, junk food, burgers, McDonald's. McDonald's was at one time way healthier than it is now, comparatively. It's junk food, so no junk food's healthy. But there's something like 40 plus preservatives or something stupid in just McDonald's fries. I just want to look that up. Just make sure I've got the number right. Preservatives in. There was a page I had on that. Really should be a bit more professional returning this. But certainly, this is what I want to talk about a bit more because it is crucial. My Wi-Fi's gone off. Right on cue. Why is that gone off? But you're generally going to see this. America's going to unravel left, right, and center as long as these people think that they can control everything. People deemed deported to Venezuela, who are innocent people, not gang members, just because they got a tattoo. I mean, the dumbing down of people, keep them dumb, keep them consuming, keep them entertained, but facts don't matter, has now gone full circle, infected those who are still addicted to the control of citizens, because the citizens are really customers who keep paying in via tax. Yeah. And they're addicted to that control, and it just looks like America is one big addiction trip in every shape, way, and form that is poisoning every aspect of everybody's lives, whether you're a corrupt sycophant for Trump administration or not. Trump's health is obviously declining. He's senile. He's some kind of dementia, clearly. Bizarre attitude towards life. He sees everything as a transaction, as a deal. You know, same thing with Ukraine, how they treated Ukraine, berated Zelensky, but then it's like, oh, we'll do this and that for you as long as we can have your minerals. The trade minerals and all this, and this tariff war. It's just ridiculous. And the whole thing is literally unraveling completely. You don't have a country. You have a bunch of authority figures with no clue what they're doing, and each tiny gear that is poisoned is poisoning another bigger gear, and the whole thing's just gonna, as a metaphor, the whole thing will fall like a deck of cards. Is something else to look for as well. Is people who use metaphors, I use them a lot. Usually not to talk about individuals. You use metaphors to communicate state of things. Those sort of people would probably be more trustworthy. If you're using lots of, if you find that if you find someone's a bit sussy and they're doubling down, look out for them using metaphors that are smear campaigning individuals. And the Trump administration has done that as well, name calling and so on. So, generally the fate model, what we have in front of us here is, fate, focus, it's focus, authority, tribe, and emotion. This is what triggers our mammalian brain, our most primitive side. It's not the neocortex. The word neo means new, by the way, and cortex to cover. So it's the latest part of our brain that covers over those other parts that are deep inside our brain, that are the earliest parts that are really being more stimulated in countries like America than any higher thinking whatsoever. And again, it's come home to roost. Look at RFK Jr. He's a complete weird anti-vax conspiracy nut job. He's regurgitating some age-old theory there about autism, claiming that vaccination was causing autism, and so on. What happened with the scientific discoveries and diagnoses of getting better at vaccines? Although science all over the world was progressing quite well, sometimes equally with one other science. The correlation is not causation. So the science of vaccinations were going up, and the science of diagnosis of autism was going up. So idiots who are deliberately dumbed down by corporate interest because they want the consumers to keep consuming and buying and not question what they're doing. Well, generation after generation, people are now that dumbed down. They've done a really bad number on America. You're the dumbest developed country on planet Earth. It's just everything about America contradicts itself. It's the richest country on planet Earth, and yet you got people living third world conditions, and you're being run under a dictatorship that if you don't look right, you got a few tattoos, so you go get deported to Venezuela. Basically, probably be killed or in a prison. A gay man who was a hairdresser got deported just because he had some Real Madrid tattoos. This is not anything to do with deporting foreigners. It's oh, you don't look right, you don't fit the regime. It's Nazism, it's white supremacism, it's all of the wrongs, it's all these isms that really, it's horrifying. It just, I don't think enough Americans understand there's no America that exists in the future like pre-Trump era or any. It just isn't happening. You got to have a complete rewrite of everything here because everything is falling apart, unzipping at the seams, and being rewritten for you anyway, unless you stand up and we hear a lot about, oh, can't be doing this, can't be doing that, it's against the law, but the Trump administration is doing it anyway. So how much longer can you say, oh, court case for this and that, and it's just, what's the point in saying yes, this is illegal when they're just allowed to do it anyway? What is your law enforcement for if it's not to enforce the law? How do you enforce law? You penalize people enough so that they don't continue to do something. And there's been some headway towards controlling that recently. But when it's very risky when there's not enough being done, when the general citizens get a learned helplessness. And again, that's part of the psychological operation to dumb people down, control them. Don't let it happen. But it feels like and looks like to the rest of the world you're letting it happen anyway. So, the mammalian part of our brain that makes, so we've got written here in front of me, makes all of our real decisions. The first part is focus. Psyops always aim to hijack your attention with repetition. We said a lot of repetition and mantras come from the MAGA cult. Shocking visuals of fear-inducing scenarios. Some examples are like 24/7 media coverage of a crisis or constant repetition of terms like words have a huge amount of power. This is something else I feel like American culture does not understand, the power of certain words that could reframe a whole set of information, how you feel about it, could control how you feel about information, whether you feel positive or negative. Words like unprecedented, you see that, we hear that being used. So with this, pause and ask, why is this message being pushed so aggressively? So compare how much airtime different stories are receiving, and note any disproportionate focus. The second part here is authority. Trusted figures might shift their tone or positions, and unnaturally to support a narrative that you wouldn't necessarily expect. Watch closely for so-called expert panelists or endorsements where authority figures might speak outside their expertise. You see that all the time. RFK Jr., everything he speaks is outside of his expertise. He knows nothing about science. He's a problem, a big problem. People like this are poisoning the well so much that you got kids in America now with measles of all things raising its ugly head because oh, you don't need to vaccinate them anymore. They take away the vaccinations. Like the MMR, the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccination has been effective across the world. We have it in the UK as well. It works, has done for decades. You remove it, oh, a problem arises. Measles. Yeah, it's bizarre. Hey, people go talk about, oh, this is going on. Where's the conspiracy theorists now? They are the conspiracy theorists that are now in control. And this anything goes mentality has brought in anything goes. Um, the attitude of, oh, we can't penalize this person for this or that. They might, we've got to look after these people or that people. Well, there still needs to be some where you draw a line because if what they're doing is hurting other things that are in place to be maintained for the protection of everyone else, yeah, but corruption and obsession of control doesn't want that because they want to be the top dog. They want to control everything. Propaganda, the lies, is horrendous. Trump is also recently talking about a cognitive test yet again. We had that in 2024. No, we didn't. Had that during the end of during his first administration, didn't we? Should be questioned, why was he taking a cognitive test in the first place? This is, again, the questioning that needs to be encouraged, not the reactive that is being super encouraged, has been for decades in America. The responsive, impulsive mind, the mammalian brain side of our brain, the emotion, never mind higher thinking, just get people reacting. It's deliberately been encouraged via every aspect of America and every aspect of things that come out of America to other countries as well. Facebook. Look at Facebook, the history of it. They knew at that time, when you got to think way back when, it was like the first official social network. And people were getting using it. They didn't just like it. Some people were completely addicted. But they wanted that. And this poisons everything. It rips society apart. And look what these media fat cats have done. Mark Zuckerberg, Meta, doesn't want to fact check anything anymore. Yeah, they're not fact checking anything at all. And there's plenty of evidence that these media outlets, these so-called social networks, have influenced a lenience towards elections that are not in the best interest of your general citizens, and election manipulation, definitely voting manipulation, and so on, coming through the influence of these networks. Anything like Trump MAGA support pages really should be deleted off these social networks. But no, everything is encouraged. If you let algorithms just do their thing without telling it too much, surprising what you get suggested to be, oh, friend suggestions and so on. Yeah. And they have nothing to do with you. It's just like, I don't like this automation. I don't like this in your face control at all. It's, the social networks come up with these suggestions because they're algorithms It's like, screw you, I'm watching something, or like YouTube, and you get suggestion videos. Well, you could be watching a video not because you like it, but because you're researching what a YouTuber is doing because they're doing something questionable and corrupt. But then you get suggested more videos like this one. And there's plenty of rule breaking that goes on YouTube that is kind of hard to. It's breaking the rules, but it's hard to report in particular specific ways. Sometimes there's that going on. This is a problem with the whole progress of human nature in when it comes to technology. Here's technology. Here's our wisdom, and up it goes. And our lack of wisdom on how to use the technology is down here. It slowly, eventually catches up. By the time it catches up, guess what happens? Another leap, whatever it might be. Everything can be weaponized. That's the problem. Physically, physical objects can be weaponized, but information can be weaponized against people as well. Yeah, so we have polarizing opinions. That's where the tribalism come in. So fate is definitely something that's happening. Canada, watch your media very closely and look out for things that don't tell you who did what. They just claim. They don't give you a name. They don't tell you why it was done. Or when, sometimes. Even where, sometimes. Who, what, why, when, where. Or how did this come about? So I call them the 5 golden W's. Who, what, why, when, and where. Also, there's a H in there's how. And use your critical thinking. And use the context to clarify what people are talking about. Are they contradicting the context? Are they contradicting themselves? Watch with a critical mind, not the mammalian, emotional, reactive mind. That is something that is difficult when it's a reality that we are emotional and mammalian and reactive brain first before we're critical thinking second. And you might even get people saying, no, I'm a critical thinker. You're insulting my intelligence. Or don't be so emotional about it then. Yeah. Yeah. What really makes all our decisions is the mammalian, the lower parts of our brain, really. But then the higher thinking tries to take the credit for it to some degree, and there's certain, it can be a bit blurrier than that. But what engages first is the emotional every time. It's interesting to me as well. Those who claim that they worry that they don't care enough are actually those who care too much for their own good, but they saying that and putting on the front as a protective measure. We'll talk about mask at some point in the future in behavioral analysis on exploratory minds. What I mean by mask, not a physical mask that you might have worn during the nasty side of COVID. I mean, we all wear a bit of a mask as a metaphor. This is what Chase Hughes has talked about as well. And I think my mask is a little bit, it was like, come across nice, calm, collected, just do your thing. Because there is a darker side of me that is very impatient anyway. So, yeah, underneath that is a simmering, and I don't want to have people feel uncomfortable around that. So I make sure they're okay and be nice and put that kind of front on. And that's kind of practice as well when you work in retail and you get dodgy customers. Like, customers are a bit annoying here and there, and you have to, it's part of your job to go Thank you, sir. Have a good day. And inside you going, what an idiot, you know. But again, Ace Hughes talks about that in his book as well. It's like when people are annoying and going out of their way to be a bit of idiotic, and it's how to cope with it. It's like people people are reasons. There's reasons why they like they are, right? So one individual on YouTube, Aaron Costello, you know who that is. What the hell happened to her for her to be trying to be so manipulative in information and yet it's failing so bad anyway? Was it done to her and she feels like she's got to do it first before anyone does it to her in her earlier childhood, perhaps? Don't know, because it's very bizarre on her obsession to double down when it's very clear with anybody with a reasonable intellect and a reasonable functioning mind can see that everything she's doing is, well, she's breaking restraining orders, she's in contempt of court, and so on. And this is like the doubling down here is phenomenal. Be aware of people wearing black, solid black all the time with little to no logos. Is another aspect of watching human behavior. Erin Costello, increasingly during her doubling down of this, was more often than not just wearing black with no logos. Yeah. And people are wearing black and purple. Purple is kind of the psychology of color is a real thing. So again, gone off a bit of a tangent, but watch out for some of these things. And this is what I want to do a little bit more of. Presentations maybe here and there on exploratory minds, and write up about some of these things, and write up about technologies, 3D printing, the advances in medical industry because of 3D printing, different advances in different materials. And these advances in technology are going out of America. There's no way these companies can survive with the chaotic nonsense that's going on in America. And it's by design. They want this. They may fantasize that it's going to work, but ultimately it's because of the greed. And they want to be rich oligarchs who control, in their fantasy, they control what's going to be the best country ever. But it won't. Not under such dictatorship and ill-informed, childlike, pathetic mindsets with paranoid conspiracy nuts as well. But again, the deliberate dumbing down of citizens has come home to roost because they forgot that they were dumbing everyone down and thought, oh, it was just controlling them. Which removed the education system to a large enough degree that those controllers were being the dumbed down result to start with anyway. I really do think that started off as, at some point in America's history, as deliberate. Education saves people's lives. The illusion and delusion of superiority of ill-educated people doesn't seem to be. It appears to be exponential problem in America. You could say it's like a Dunning-Kruger effect, but then Dunning-Kruger model isn't quite exact either. And if you don't know what the Dunning-Kruger is, it's like people with little to no knowledge of what they're trying to do have this illusion and delusion that they're experts. And then the more they learn, they discover their confidence drops. And then if they even bother to learn, it kind of peaks back up. And yeah, but yeah, go and look up RFK Jr., the nonsense he's blurting out, and a lot of you will know who that is anyway. How do these people get these jobs? Well, you wonder how any American gets to be in a position of authority when these authorities are just crumbling and falling apart at the seams anyway. Because there is no standard that was not maintained enough for long enough in America, and this is the result. Because whether it's deliberate psyops or not, it's because of psyops. Psychological operation to control, but then come round full circle to poison the controller, trying to control things. So who's in control? Nobody. Not one damn person. Nobody's in control in a country like America. You could say, well, Supreme Court of the United States got more control, and Trump's still in office, and if there was any standard from the outside looking in, I seem to think that if there was any standard in control, there should be something in position that could be maintained to keep that in position, to have Trump not be president, get him out of office, and somebody replace him. Just, despite all these loopholes or whatever, but there's too many loopholes because standards are not maintained. The whole thing is unraveling at the seams completely in every aspect. How long before the so-called Supreme Court of the United States gets corruption leaked into it that is in favor of these rich oligarchs? You don't, too many Americans just don't get it. But you're not meant to. By design. That's what they want. Thank you for watching. Take care, and I'll look forward to doing another video soon. This is Exploratory Minds. Take care. Bye-bye.